Hello everybody, Ellie here for WhoCulture. I hope you are all doing well. I've got a few things to talk to you about today, so let's get straight into it, shall we? But remember, there's always a twist, there's always a twist, there's always a twist at the end. While we're talking about twists, I'm sure all of you will have seen that... I made myself laugh. I'm sure many of you will have seen the announcement over the weekend that Susan Twist will be returning to season 2 of Doctor Who. Are we surprised by this? I'm not entirely sure. I kind of feel like I wasn't necessarily expecting to see her again, but the announcement that we will be also doesn't surprise me, especially when you consider that at the end of Empire of Death, she was given a job at UNIT. So it makes sense that she may pop up now as a member of staff at UNIT. Whether this now means that she'll just kind of be relegated to the background and pop up every now and then in a few scenes at UNIT HQ, or whether there's going to still be another twist at the end. Is she 100% a normal, good character now? By good, I mean as in she's not evil as opposed to being a badly written character, just so we're clear. Is she 100% clear of all the Sutek influence, or are we going to see some sort of recurrence at some point where we see hints of Sutek's influence still in her? That could be quite interesting, although part of me kind of wants to step away from the whole Sutek situation now. But that could be an interesting avenue for that character in particular. With her working at UNIT, it does make me wonder, is UNIT a little crowded now? We seem to have a lot of characters working for UNIT, and we introduced new characters. You know, we had Shirley, we've had Morris, and even in the past we've had characters like Malcolm who pop up as a member of staff at UNIT and then disappear. It just seems like we just keep adding more and more and more members of UNIT here, so it was kind of also an observation in season 1 that UNIT seemed to have a lot of characters, a lot of members of staff, and a lot going on. But I guess she was offered the job, as long as she doesn't make the tea. Remember? Don't make the tea. She's bad at tea. Maybe she could just be there as some entertainment. If she just do that little dance that she did on repeat. Someone presses a button. I need cheering up, Susan. Come dance for me. So the other thing, the major thing that was announced over the last few days was the Christopher Eccleston Billie Piper rejoining of the Whoniverse for Big Finish. Now, we do have an entire video based solely on that announcement, so do make sure that you go check out that video. Sean breaks it down in greater detail, gives his thoughts on it. But in terms of my thoughts on this, it's very exciting. It's come at the right time to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the 2005 revival. Part of me slightly disappointed that it's in audio form as opposed to being an on-screen reunion. For obvious reasons, which we've discussed many, many times before, it makes sense why we don't have Christopher Eccleston returning on screen in any form. Russell T Davies is not involved with the Big Finish audio dramas, so it makes sense that Christopher Eccleston would opt to go in that direction. Also, I guess because of the fact that these stories are going to slot into that 2005 era, audio means that's possible, whereas if we had them on screen, we'd have to explain why Rose now is in her 40s. So I guess that also makes it a lot easier in terms of fitting these stories into the timeline where they want them to fit. The only thing I would say is that when I saw this announcement, there was at first excitement and then a slight disappointment at the fact that it was audio. Mostly because the audio dramas are not accessible to everybody. First of all, I'm not entirely certain if Big Finish is available globally. It may well be. I think actually it probably is. I'm not sure. But also the biggest thing is that they cost a fair amount. So in terms of watching Doctor Who, as long as you're paying your TV license, it's free to watch, or you pay your subscription to Disney Plus or whatever. But with Big Finish, there's no subscription service available, so you're having to pay for each audio collection individually, and it does start to add up, as opposed to if you paid that subscription monthly, or they're just not as accessible to the wider audience. And so I don't think as many people are going to be able to listen to them. I know myself, I'm slightly put off by the fact that, you know, you have to pay for them all, and it's not just, oh, I could just listen to that. It's not part of my Spotify subscription, or it's not part of an Audible subscription, you know? Which is not to say that I won't listen to them, but there's these things to consider. So yeah, there's that. But overall, it's great to have them back. It's really exciting. I don't think we did think that we were going to have this reunion happening, especially with all the situation with Christopher Eccleston. So it is very, very exciting. I'm intrigued to know where in that series 1 timeline they fit, whether it's going to be all 12 of them in one gap, or whether they're all going to slot into different places within that, however many episodes there are. Now, the other thing that I'm sure many of you have been seeing and getting very confused over, we have spoken about before, is the whole Fear Her saga. First it was up, then it was gone for a very long time, then it got put up again, and then it got taken down again, and I'm fairly certain, as of recording, it is back up again. It's a whole thing. For those of you who may have forgotten what this situation is, or maybe new, basically, Fear Her was removed from BBC iPlayer because it contained a voice cameo from Hugh Edwards, and following some pretty awful allegations and a whole situation regarding him, the BBC decided that they needed to remove him from the episode and replace his voice with a different person. This happened at the end of July / beginning of August 2024. That's when Fear Her was removed from BBC iPlayer. And we did do a whole video talking about this situation, so make sure you do check that out as well if you want more details on this whole kerfuffle. So then last week it was finally replaced back onto iPlayer with Becky Wright replacing Edwards in that voice cameo role. The episode, other than that, is exactly the same. Obviously the end credits have changed so that Hugh Edwards' name is removed and Becky Wright's name is there, but other than that, the episode is entirely the same aside from that one voice change. So here's what it sounded like before.
Just look at this, utterly incredible scenes at the Olympic Stadium.
And here's what it sounds like now.
Just look at this, utterly incredible scenes at the Olympic Stadium.
But then, drama, because over the weekend, it got removed again, got taken down again from BBC iPlayer. And there was some speculation that the reason this was happening was because there was still a scene earlier in the episode where Edward's voice could be faintly heard in the background playing on the TV behind some dialogue. But there was no official reason given for its re-removal, and this was just speculation from the Twitterverse. But then, as of recording right now, I'm fairly certain, I'm going to check actually, hang on, let me just check. Let me just find BBC iPlayer. Yeah, let's just check, because who knows? Maybe it's gone again. BBC iPlayer, Doctor Who, 2005, Series 2. Okay, yes, as of recording, it is back on iPlayer once more. And Edward's voice, I'm fairly certain, can still be heard in that aforementioned scene that we speculated was the reason for it being removed for the second time.
She's running a temperature. I can't get into that now, Kirsty.
No idea why it got taken down again, seeing as it's been replaced and it's still the same. Honestly, what is going on? Although, can you imagine if they did take it down to replace that faint, very faint voice of Hugh Edwards, and then replaced it without having actually fixed the problem? What if they uploaded the wrong file? They had the one with the very faint and the one with the replacement, and they uploaded the wrong one and it's just the same one back up again. Honestly, I would like to know what's going on in that BBC office with this whole Fear Her situation. Surely they're sick of it by now as well. And to be honest, this whole saga with Fear Her disappearing, coming back, disappearing again, coming back again, this whole saga is more interesting than the actual episode. Fear Her is one of the worst episodes of Doctor Who in general, of definitely Series 2. In fact, I would rate Love and Monsters above Fear Her. Fear Her is not a good episode. So the fact that this whole drama, this whole saga is happening surrounding this episode, I guess does the episode a bit of a favour. No one would be talking about Fear Her if not for this drama. No one would be talking about Fear Her. Let's be honest, come on. I really hope that this is it now. leave it alone. I do feel like I understand why the BBC wanted to replace Hugh Edwards' voice, but I also feel like if you've made more of a big deal out of it by doing this than if you just left it alone. I personally wouldn't have even recognised his voice. I know perhaps older viewers might have done, but generally it was a brief cameo, voice cameo. If he was on screen, fair enough, okay, maybe it would be different. But for a voice cameo, I just feel like this whole thing's been blown way out of proportion. Leave it alone now. I understand why, but enough's enough. You're making it into a bigger deal than it needs to be. No one would have even thought about it if you just left it alone. That's my opinion on it anyway. I'm not excusing the awful things that he has been charged with, but I do feel like, just come on. Enough is enough. Leave the episode alone. No one needs to be talking about Fear Her anymore, okay? Let's let it just die down again, okay? We don't need to be talking about Fear Her. At least talk about a good episode. Come on. In fact, you know what? Money where your mouth this time. I'm going to stop talking about it as well. It's had enough airtime. It's had enough people talking about this whole saga. Let's leave it alone now, okay? Done. I'm drawing a line. Drawing a line, no more talking about Fear Her. What I will recommend you do, though, is check out the video I just mentioned where Sean breaks down the news of the Christopher Eccleston and Billie Piper return to Big Finish. Definitely do check that out. And you know what? Just for a bit of fun, I know I just said we're drawing a line under it, but who would you like to have heard voicing that cameo? If you could pick anyone to have done that little voice cameo in Fear Her, who would it be? Let me know in the comments down below. Let's have some fun. In the meantime, I've been Ellie for WhoCulture, and in the words of River Song herself, goodbye, sweeties.